Still relatively light, but some of this will kind of feed into some of the other topics that we have. But yeah, this is really just kind of really a straightforward question. There's really not even any need to give too much context beforehand. I don't know, age old question, but a question that a lot of people typically do think about because everybody, a lot of people on their grind are chasing some level of success, some place of stability, some place of like comfortability, and I guess that's what this kind of encompasses. But the question simply is, what does financially stable look like to you? What do you think, Ace? If someone just asked you this, what comes to your mind? What is that? What do you envision? What do you imagine? What does that look like to you? You are uber muted.
I think it's the thing where like you can take a hit or maybe a couple of hits, like a couple of expensive um unexpected like financial hits, like maybe
What,
$2,000 or over. And
a couple of those?
yeah, probably a couple of them. And it
Mm.
doesn't really affect you at all. Like you can still keep going about your life or your day without having to worry about um your next round of bills or whatever. Like it doesn't affect you in that way. So yeah, and not I don't necessarily think of it in terms of, when you say financially stable, I don't think of it in terms of um what you have. I just think of it in terms of like your your income and whether you can weather some hard financial hardship without.
That's interesting because I mean, from that sounds of it, it seems like you're kind of saying, if you have like the savings or like reserved resources, instead of an emergency were to come on, you can take it and then you can still continue about your day to day.
Hmm.
So is that kind of accurate? You would attribute it more to like your savings or what you potentially have in reserves.
Yeah. Your savings. I guess another good point though is it has to be replenishable in a pretty like in a relatively short amount of time. Like if you just have a lot saved up, but you're not making any money,
Mm.
or you're not making a decent amount of money at least, um, then if you do take those financial hardships, you're not going to have anything like to keep moving forward with. So
Okay.
your salary or whatever you're making over the year also plays into it.
And you say and you're saying you definitely don't really attribute it to like some of the more tangible things you have. Like, do you count like owning opposed to renting, or like number of vehicles, or number of anything like that?
No, because it's not more like, to me, stability just means that like your whatever happens is not going to rock your life as it is, whatever your life looks like if and then if you consider like possessions and your net wealth, then that's a different conversation. Like what would I consider a wealthy person or
I
something.
got you. Got you. Okay, so and that's another key thing to say that financially stable doesn't equate to wealthy for you.
Mhm.
Got you. Got you. Fair enough. And then what about you, Ghost? If somebody were to ask you what does financially stable look like to you, what does go comes to your mind?
Um, Honestly, I would just classify it as not being concerned or stressed at all in any way when you have, or you're gonna make a purchase, you got to pay a bill. It just, if you can make it, or say if you have to make the payment, you can do it and you don't think twice about it. And that might seem simple, but it's constantly, if you're always thinking about, I want to buy this, but I might not be able to pay my electricity this month. I,
Jesus.
I want to buy some shoes, but would I have enough for rent?
I mean, don't to
And
some. You should never be debating shoes or rent. Is it? Don't to some.
yeah, it's not really. It's
Don't
obviously
to.
everyone's choosing the rent over the shoes, but if you have to like
Well,
consider
some
it,
people aren't, but
fair enough. But if you have to consider it and it's like a genuine concern that you're thinking twice about something because specifically because you're just not sure if you'll have the money, you might have it, but if the thought if it crosses your mind and you're not quite sure, I think that in my opinion would classify you as not financially stable. Whereas on the flip side, if you can spend it and there's no qualms, there's no second guessing, you can do it easily, then I think that's you can consider yourself financially stable.
Pardon me. Don't you think to some degree we all like kind of stress about bills from time to time? Like, maybe it's like when it's time to like pay a tax bill or like maybe not like routinely. But don't you think we all stress about bills at some point?
Um, I mean, stress is. I think it's kind of it depends on what you call stress because you can be unhappy about paying bills. Like, damn, the water bill was this much this month. Like, you
Yeah,
can be
stuff like that.
pissed about it. Like, damn, rent is how much and it's only going up. But it's different than like that. In my mind, that's not stress. That's just like it's kind of human nature.
Mm,
If you gotta pay bills, no, you're not gonna be happy about it. But you're
yeah.
not gonna think twice about your actual bank account. Like, am I gonna have enough for this? And that's in my mind. There is a distinction between that and actual stress. Like, it causes you concern and like second guessing, and it negatively affects your mind state for an extended period of time.
Mm,
Versus if you're not in that state, if you are financially stable, I should say, then again, you're going to be pissed about it, but after you pay it, you're going to move on out with your day and it doesn't have any effect on
mm. So it sounds like for you, it's along the lines of you're never ultra worried about your accounts depleting because you always have that money or you always have enough to take care of bills. So you're not stressed about having enough.
you. Yeah, just about security. And even if you were to lose your job, you have confidence either that you'll get another job or you're in a good enough state that you can continue living life and you don't have to worry about being on the street because
Yeah, I would say
of
that that's actually a really good metric. Like if you were to
yeah.
like have some times of hardship, which kind of goes along with what H was saying. Um, so I guess I don't like to fully lead in the comics, but it's kind of interesting. Y'all don't really put like fun or like the extra into the equation. It sounds like because like from what I've heard, I'm not even gonna put in on. I'm gonna load what I would think, but what from what I heard, one of the good metrics of financially stable is when you can take multiple vacations throughout the year, or have like an outing like once or twice a week every week. Do y'all not load any of that in there?
To me, no, that doesn't really
So financially
that
stable, I gotta be at home all the time.
it's not about like it's not about that. Like,
I
you
can't
can
have
be
hobbies. I can't have a life.
I
Is what
don't
some
I
people
don't
would
think
say.
that should be the cutoff is if you can take a couple vacations every so often. It should be more about living a I'll say regular, normal, non-stressed life more so than pleasure.
I mean, you could kind of add it in that in the same way that we talked about being able to take hits, like financial hits, that if you can take a somewhat expensive vacation or two and not worry about your bills, plus take the financial hits, that's like, even more stable. I mean, but I guess that's it. Like, you could say financially stable is one thing versus saying financially stable is a gradient. Like, somebody can be more or less financially stable,
Oh
and
yeah,
like
yeah. That's a
more
good point to bring
financially
in.
stable would be the more hits you could take without going into the hardship type stuff
Yeah.
that Ghost was talking about.
Yeah, yeah, no, that absolutely positively makes sense. I guess for this conversation, we are just kind of talking about that baseline of what is the
Exactly.
baseline of financial stable. So yeah, all right. And I guess that kind of answers this the last thing I'm gonna say because since there is like some level of subjectivity with it and tiers to this, so to speak, I was gonna say when y'all think of financially stable, do y'all put a certain like stage in life to that? Like, is it a thing that's consistently moving, or if you were to think of financially stable, you also think financially stable if you have a significant other or if you have kids included into that? What do you think, Ace? Like, are you thinking from an independent standpoint or from like, oh, you and other people's standpoint?
I don't think the definition changes with more or less people in the consideration. I think it's just the amount to reach financial stability is
Ability.
going to change.
Gotcha. What about you, Ghost? You, anything different, or are you on the same wave?
Yeah, I think Ace put it well. Pretty much agree. If you're if you're living by your, I don't say by yourself. If you have to be the provider in a sense, if it's for yourself, for family members, for kids, your kids, whatever, then like Ace said, the amount would change. But I just don't think like if you're being supported by someone else, you can technically call yourself financially stable, even if you might be if you were living by your own. I think
Y'all didn't consider yourself financially stable when y'all were under your parents' roofs?
no, I'm
I
still
don't
not
think
financially.
so.
Oh Jesus! I was gonna reserve. I was thinking about that when I first saw this up. It's gonna. Well, we're all on a grind to some degree, so it doesn't even really matter. Although I don't know if a baddie would want to hear that. Well, I digress. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, fundamentally, I think we all generally are in line, or maybe have slightly different definition, but are in line with some of the depictions of what financial stability looks like. Yeah, so that definitely gives me a good benchmark. I would say again, I just add that for no reason. I think a lot of people would include like they can afford some lavishness in life, but again, that's depending on your view of the matter. And if there's nothing else, kind of moving on to our next topic.